In life, there is what I like to call the "you just had to be there" moment. Something so absurd, everyone watching live said it had to be scripted. And I don't blame them. Going into March 16th, we had never seen anything quite like the first ever Premier Speed Cubing League Open in Berkeley, California. So, of course, no one was prepared for the impending chaos that was about to take place when 8 of the world's fastest Rubik's Cube solvers competed in a head-to-head Rocket League-style tournament, with one storyline in particular looming over it all. A matchup that was soon to go down as the single greatest head-to-head in cubing history. Last time these two met, it was absolute chaos. Number 2 seed Matti Hiroto Inaba lost his title of North American champion just months before this. But the moment he walked into PSL, something was different. He came in with a vengeance, completely sweeping a world-class solver in his opening match, taking the first set 3 solves to 0, and then the second set 3 to 0 again. You see, for whatever reason, Matti decided that today was going to be one of the greatest performances of his life. And this might have been exactly why. The man who beat him at the North American Championship, number 1 seed Tymon Kolasinski, was ready to go to absolute war. He spent the last 6 months perfecting a solving style once thought to be impossible, coming off of the single greatest year of championship performance we've ever seen. There was nothing his first round matchup, 86th in the world Ethan Jan, could do against the European champion. He's one of the only people on the planet who uses the same method as Tymon. He learned all 800 algorithms to do so, but even then, this is the definition of a David versus Goliath matchup. Ethan's only hope was to play the mental game by icing him with a timeout at match point. Tymon's solving style has such a small margin for error, but he's repeatedly proven to be the best in the world when it comes to handling pressure, easily taking the match and bringing the people exactly what they wanted. Matti versus Tymon, the top 2 solvers in the Western world. One of these two will be knocked down to the losers bracket, and if you've ever watched any kind of double elimination tournament, you know that because of just how little room for failure there is, the losers bracket matchups are where it's most intense, and also where just about anything can happen. We saw Ethan, ranked at 86th in the world, have an extremely rare chance to take down 16th in the world Dylan Miller.
I'm gonna go first.
With mistakes like forgetting to start the timer, all of a sudden Ethan took a 2-1 lead in the first set. Dylan's had moments in the past where he's come up short in these situations, and with Ethan solving still far above anything we expected from him, all of the pressure was on Dylan to respond, to execute at match point, and stay alive. Ethan sets the time to beat, 5.91. Dylan has taken a lot of time to warm up throughout this match. Handling nerves is exactly what decides moments like these. He goes into the solve a little bit shaky at first, but his perfect turning at the end is good enough for a 5.90, just barely eliminating Ethan from the tournament by 1/100th of a second. Frankly, making it from this part of the losers bracket to the grand final is an impossible task, and Dylan just secured his chance to do exactly that. All he has to do now is wait on the results of the most anticipated head-to-head since the 2024 Asian Championship, Matti versus Tymon. Only 2 people beat Tymon at a major championship in all of 2024. Matti was not one of them. These two tend to always somehow bring out the best in each other, and it all started on Solve 1. Tymon opts to go first, setting the tone with a 5, but Matti immediately responds with a new league record of 4.08. This, ladies and gentlemen, was the first domino to fall that set off the single greatest head-to-head in cubing history. We had an expectation of how many 4s we were going to be seeing, but it's still unbelievable to actually witness. Tymon, absolute wizardry to take by far the fastest set we've seen yet. The semifinal raises the stakes to first to 3 sets instead of just 2, and at an 0-1 deficit, Matti somehow shuts down any momentum Tymon had, completely sweeping him to tie it up at 1-1. But it was at this exact moment, right when everything came back to even, that the world started to crumble for both of them. Set 3 was full of mistakes, Tymon uncharacteristically struggling to find anything at all. Definitely feeling the pressure here, even the winning solve was an extremely lucky 4.38 from Matti. All of a sudden, despite Tymon's absurd start to the match, his back is officially against the wall. You can see it on his face. He knows how important set 4 is, down 2-1. All Matti has to do is string together 3 good solves to achieve what he never has before, defeating the European champion to secure a spot in grand finals. But this deep into the tournament, the nerves have officially arrived. Matti with a +2 on the very first solve, but Tymon is known to absolutely thrive in these situations. Brilliant solving to even it back up and push us into the first set 5 in PSL history. With everything building up to this moment, a rivalry years in the making, Tymon takes solve 1 and then a 5.48 on solve 2. That is exactly what Maddie needs to beat here to keep Tymon from reaching match point. The nerves are more real than they've ever been, and he misses the timer stop. It's still somehow the first ever PSL sub 4, but it should have been at least a 3.5. Perfect turning and pure chaos to give him a time that is simply impossible for Tymon to beat on solve 2. It's already over before he even reaches the final step. On top of that, both of the next two go either way, meaning it all comes down to this. When you see a box of 4 2s in PSL, you know what that means. Solve 5, set 5. One solve to decide who will be moving on to the grand final. Tymon is looking extremely smooth here, flawless turning for a 441, giving Maddie an extremely tall task. We've seen him do it before in this match, but he just can't find what Tymon did on this scramble. It's not gonna be enough, meaning European champion Tymon Kolasinski is headed to the grand final, while Maddie faces one last chance, a winner go home versus Dylan Miller to fight for a rematch against Tymon in Grands. But Maddie is just so warmed up. In a do or die situation, this kind of consistency is extremely hard to beat. Dylan takes off the sweatshirt after losing set 1. If he's gonna have a chance, he needs to make a run now. And this is exactly what he wants to see. Things start to fall apart for Maddie when he forgets to start the timer, and then is hit with a delay in the match when he was accidentally given the same scramble as the last one. This is the reset Dylan needs, but it also adds to the amounting pressure. Dylan just barely taking a solve by 0.01. Truthfully, both competitors were struggling here, highlighted by the fact that at match point, Maddie wins without even finishing the cube. It's still one turn away, so that's a +2 second penalty, but he wins the solve anyway to get his second chance against the European champion in the grand final. We're right back where we were, first to 3 sets, the greatest head-to-head rivalry in the world currently. Just under an hour ago, Maddie vs Tymon was absolute cinema. But can the grand final live up to the hype? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there were so many storylines going into this tournament, but what is about to happen was not one of them. You see, Tymon needs just 3 sets to win, whilst Maddie, coming from the loser's bracket, has to achieve a full bracket reset, meaning he needs to win this match twice if he wants to be crowned as the first ever PSL champion. Tymon's had the time to prepare between matches that Maddie was not afforded. That's important because it is a huge mental game before the first solve even begins. They trade solves early, but Tymon's solutions are brilliant, taking the first set with a 4.15 on solve 3. We've seen this kind of dominance from him before, but set 2 is the exact opposite story. Down 0-1, Maddie pulls off a sweep in his favor. This is some of the greatest back and forth we've ever seen. It's only possible in this format. And Tymon comes out with a vengeance in the third set, looking absolutely unstoppable himself. And the sweep is reversed again, meaning up 2-1, all Tymon needs to do now is take this final set to become the first ever PSL champion. Maddie couldn't do it when he got a chance in the semifinal, but can Tymon? He's still pouring on the pressure, so many sub 5s. Maddie knows he cannot make a single mistake from here on out. All of the tension over the last 3 matches has culminated in this moment. Solve 2, set 3. He needs it to stay alive, and it was at this point we learned that sometimes things go wrong just to make the story that much better when they go right.
White cross might be the choice. It is indeed. Looks like
a league record of 3.51, the fastest solve of his entire competitive career, done at the best time possible. This isn't just a good solve, it's impossible to beat. Most people didn't think we'd see a single sub 4 in the first ever PSL. Maddie now has 2 of them, and most importantly, he's staying in the match. Tymon is left with one option and one option only. He has to end it now before the momentum gets out of hand. 4.69 is the time to beat, and he pulls out an unbelievably clutch 4.32. This pushes us back to match point, and despite the league record, Maddie's back is once again against the wall. He needs something to survive here, but just so many moves on this 595. He knows the door is wide open on solve 4. You really have to worry that this isn't enough to hold off Tymon from becoming the first ever PSL champion. But it's the lockiest solve we've seen all day from him. Even he can't believe it. He's giving Maddie daylight, hanging on by a thread in the grand final. And this fumble from Tymon set us up for a solve 5 that was absolute cinema. Maddie knows it's win or go home. He can't afford a solve like the last one. It's still a little shaky, and he also knows that a 5.65 is not nearly enough to secure anything. The pressure, the brilliant solving, everything has culminated in this one moment. Tymon Kolasinski has a chance to win it all. One solve from set 5 or a first ever PSL title. All he needs is a 5.65 or better. And what proceeded to take place, ladies and gentlemen, can only be explained by divine intervention.
Match point number 2.
He does it! And he's unbelievable!
3.41, a solve that will go down in history as one of the most clutch moments ever that makes absolutely zero sense. Even Tymon himself could not explain how he just pulled this off. After all of my calculations, this solve should not have been possible. You see, Tymon uses the ZB method with over 800 algorithms, and that's what you've seen him do throughout every single one of his solves in these last 3 matches. But on this solve, and only this solve, Tymon reverted to a simpler one. Not because he knew it would result in, well, this, but because he decided to do something incredibly rare and switch methods in the middle of the solve. By some stroke of insane luck or a moment that was just meant to be, he was gifted with the 1.4% chance of a PLL skip that gave him the fastest solve he has ever done in his competitive career, at match point, to win the grand final. And of course, he had to let everyone know about it, as he should. Tymon Kolasinski goes home with the first ever PSL Open title, Maddie coming in second, and Dylan getting the bronze. The PSL is streamed right here on YouTube on Speedcubing TV. I'll link them down in the description, and it's also sponsored by Speedcube Shop. You know what that means. You can use code STU to get a hefty discount on any of the products, any of the cubes you want to order. And also, speaking of shameless plugs, just hit the white button under your screen, and it helps me, so you should do it. Speaking of content, you probably shouldn't be content that you are slower than a 6-year-old. I was in your house yesterday, and I saw you, happy-go-lucky, you were all happy, and I just decided that today I'm going to ruin your day, so that's what I did. And anyway, yeah, besides that, that's about it. See ya.